Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and sexy humans all around the world. My name is Scotty Milan, and I'm here with my co-host Sean B. And this is... I wasn't done yet.
How we doing?
And this is the Rogue Millennial Podcast. Thank you for joining us. It is 2:55 p.m., which means we're only 10 minutes late from the time we scheduled, which is a good improvement.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Would you like to elaborate on why that happened?
Yeah, I mean, Scotty couldn't get this shit set up
correctly. This dude just walked in the door like, I mean, it's okay. And I'm not mad at it. I'm actually kind of impressed with us right now. So what's been going on, man?
So I got a fucking story and a half.
Okay.
I had a crazy weekend.
Okay.
So I competed in that strongman competition, which was cool. They just didn't even break the surface of my weekend. My dog was sick. I got two dogs. I got an English bulldog, and I got a French bulldog. The English bulldog decided to eat a bunch of my daughter's shit, apparently. So Friday he was shitting, Saturday he started puking, Sunday he was puking, then Monday morning he was puking. So yesterday I was finally like, all right, obviously something's wrong. Brought him to the doctor, the vet. I guess, yeah, doctor. You called him doc, I guess. So it turns out he ate 2 bottle tops, a pacifier, a Ziploc bag, and some sort of stuffed animal that string and cotton, whatever. It's all stuck in his intestines, and he had to get emergency surgery yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. We haven't gotten the full bill yet. So far, I'm $1,500 in, not counting the surgery. It cost $1,500 just to figure out that he had eaten all this shit. And then we had to do surgery to get
$1,500 is a lot of money to spend on a dog.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be like $4,000. Yeah. He's had a few times in the past where it's cost us like a sickening amount of money. Yeah.
That. Let me just hold on. So we're having some. Let me see real quick because I'm getting. Whoa. Let's see. Got it. Okay. So here's the deal. I don't want to interrupt you in the middle of your.
No. I guess my dog will just die,
story.
So you can talk about fucking YouTube. Go ahead.
I mean, that's how it has to be sometimes, you know? No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But people are tweeting at us in the middle of this because today we have our first kind of little real hey, scheduled live event with the anticipation that people are going to watch and that we're going to tweet out the link to everybody right before we go on live and all this shit. Yeah. Like this is our really like our first like anticipated live stream.
Yeah.
Right? Where there's actually people out there who don't know us personally, who don't share a same last name and is like just wants to support us and stuff, right? There's actually people out there in the Twitter sphere who are watching this right now, and we appreciate having you very much. And let's give a shout out real quick. Let's see who it was who was watching this. We have the Twitter name is KT Chisnick. I don't know how you would pronounce that.
That sounds hot.
Yeah. Well, she has a picture of Ayan Hirsi Ali as her Twitter photo.
Oh, okay.
So she has a lot of interesting things to say if you can catch my drift. Another one is Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus calls himself Christopher Columbus. He's a pretty nice guy. We don't agree on a lot of things. And another one is this girl Jen
raping and pivoting and destroying an entire.
Right, yeah. I mean, come on, pretty respectable guy. So anyway, here's what happened today. I'm over there, kicking my clumsy fingers around on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I just ran into something. Maybe it was yesterday this started, but Stefan Molyneux had said something about, not wanting to bomb the Middle East again and stuff like that. Yeah. And I said, yeah, good point. I agreed. We immediately started. Oh, kitchen sink. Kitchen sink, that's how you pronounce it. She just tweeted me back because she heard us.
Oh,
so I guess it is working. Kitchen sink, that's how you say it.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Kitchen Sink. Thank you for watching.
Just for reference, I didn't read it. Maybe I could have gotten that on my own, so don't assume that I'm that dumb also.
Doubt it. Well, I guess it's kitchen sink. Oh, just missing the vowels. That would have been like a good game to play, right? Like a good, let's try to guess this person's, no? I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
Guess the liberals' Twitter names.
So I started getting a lot of people like talking shit to me as people do on Twitter, which half of me is like, why am I being abused? And half of me was like, great, people are paying attention.
Yeah.
Right? Because people like us, we want people to talk to us and try to argue with us and just pay attention to whatever we're saying, whether you hate it or love it. So people were starting to say, what, are you going to run to your bomb shelter now? And don't worry, you're not going to have to go fight. A bunch of real fucking men are going to go fight for you and whatever. It was a bunch of stuff like that. So we got into a little back and forth arguments.
I'm tougher than you because I'm willing to kill innocent people.
So we got into a bunch of back and forth arguments about this, and it's been going on all day, and it's just been blowing up my phone, and I'm kind of excited about it because through this, we got some new viewers to watch us, which is always great. And I think that the people who were arguing with me on Twitter would actually... I think the kind of people I was dealing with, this is the only thing that they would disagree with me about, I think, or one of the only things, because we seem to have a lot of the same kind of views and values about life and about America and about the world and about freedom and politics and all that stuff. But this is just the one line in the sand for me. So the one red line in the sand for me is this situation that's happening right now.
Yeah, so the way I'm looking at it is you're seeing two kind of factions rise from the Trump.
Absolutely, 100%.
You're seeing the Trump people that are based in values. Like, hey, these are my values. The reason I backed this guy, not even voted for him, just maybe thought he was a better candidate, was because he said some things about putting America first, non-interventionist foreign policies, things like that. And people got behind that. And as soon as he kind of just decided, you know what, I'm going to do exactly what every other president did, because that's what he did in this scenario. His knee-jerk reaction was every single president. And I don't necessarily think it was his decision. And I don't want to go crazy, fucking Alex Jones, conspiracy, deep state. But I really think that there's just a fucking war machine that ensures that these things happen. And you're seeing the deterioration of his supporters. And there's the ones who are just going to blindly support him, the same people that blindly supported Barack Obama. Because Barack Obama's 2008 campaign was similar in the non-interventionist, this is what we're going to do, we're going to end these wars, we're going to get out of Guantanamo, we're going to shut down Guantanamo, we're not going to torture people, we're going to do all these things. And when he didn't do those, the hardcore, like, real progressives were like, no, fuck that dude. Like, you said you're going to do some shit. You're not even trying to do it. You're starting new wars. And they jump ship. And that's kind of how Bernie Sanders arose. And now with Trump, you're seeing the same thing. And people are going to get furious at me for comparing it to the Obama situation. But unpack it. It's exactly the same thing. People.
Let's not use the word unpack. Let's not do that.
The real progressive jumped off of Obama's ship when he decided to go fucking rogue and do what every other president had done. Now the real conservative Trump supporters are jumping ship because of a lot of reasons. There's a few. I mean, he's throwing a hissy fit over healthcare. Like, if they don't want to pass this healthcare bill, then like they're gonna have to live with it. Like, you're gonna say to the Freedom Caucus that it's your fault that Obamacare exists? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, those are the only dudes standing up in Senate saying, like, yeah, this is horseshit. This is the same thing. It was lipstick on a pig. That's all it was. and I wouldn't even go far to say that, because, like, pigs are delicious when you eat them, and this doesn't have any of those qualities. So you're seeing the real concern. And I had a fear of that. I thought it was going to be same as the Obama administration, where people just blindly followed him. But you're seeing conservatives really stick to their values, which is fucking cool.
Which is, no matter, listen, whether you disagree or agree with the reason why they're doing that, you have to respect the fact that they are not just hardline Trump supporters who are going to jump on board with anything he says. And you also have to respect when leftists who hate Trump commend him for doing something that for some reason all of a sudden they like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, either way, it's respectable. And I think you gain credibility as an objective person when you can say, you know what, usually I'm a fan of Trump, but I just can't get behind this. right? Or I usually hate Trump, but he did a good job on this. I
Yeah.
think people who did those two things, is very weird. It's very, very weird to me how so many people just flip-flopped like that,
Yeah.
right? It's very weird. Also, it's pretty respectable, and I like it. I liked the
Yeah.
fact that a lot of people did that.
Yeah, and I've always had an admiration for people when we make the right decision. Like the Bernie supporters when he came out in favor of Hillary, and they fucking like rioted. They were like, "No, fuck this! Like you told us not to listen to you if you said to support somebody else." Like, and that's what they did, and that's commendable. But the other thing is the people who have jumped on the warship, like John McCain, perfect example. As soon as John McCain favors something for a foreign intervention, which he favors all of them, go through history of John McCain from when he left the military, became a politician, there has not been one time where we have had a police, like a global police interaction or whatever we want to call them, that he has not supported. The guy is a fucking psychopath. So as soon as he comes out and says, the president and I have our issues, we want to call them.
Whoa. Sorry about that.
The guy is a
Sorry about that.
psychopath.
That was the other live stream coming through. My bad. Keep going.
I sound great.
You do. You have a great voice. Sexy.
But so when John McCain comes out and says, although the president and I have our disagreements, he made a very good decision here. Like, no. He decided to use bombs. Like, that. I don't think that's a good decision. There's very, very rarely throughout the course of history have we dropped any sort of bombs or had any sort of interaction, like interaction of force in other countries where we've said, okay, that was a good decision. World War I, disaster. World War II, we were able to say, like, oh, okay, like, yeah, this sort of did it. But you could also make the argument that World War II put us in the situation now that we have with Russia.
World War II put us in a lot of situations.
Yeah, it did a lot of things, and it potentially created what we have now. I'm not saying that fucking it would have been cool to have Hitler run 50% of Europe or 80%, whatever he was going to end up with in their heads. But we also have to realize that we intervened in something that potentially wasn't our deal. Like I saw somebody, I don't know if it was on your Facebook, you were interacting with somebody who said like sometimes these things are justified, and he literally named 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. So you compared
okay,
Assad,
it was my dad.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And
so you
I was
So you compared Assad maybe gassing some people
right
to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor.
There's you're also missing one enormous point, is that those were attacks on us.
Yeah.
They were retaliatory because they were against us. It's not like we went and kind of played Big Brother to a third party that we wanted to just protect. Those were personal attacks on us and our own family.
Yeah.
So I was weirded out by that too.
But I mean this whole the use of chemical warfare in Syria is the comparisons that people have made to like, oh, what if we let Assad turn into Hitler, or what if we let it, like, what the fuck are you talking about? The guy, he's at a civil war with his people right now. So we're deciding that we're on the other, like, if it's a civil war, you have to realize this. If we get involved, we are picking a side. So imagine us in the Civil War and Britain came over to just because the South had done something mean to the North in war. Let's get that out of the way. We did something mean in war. It doesn't make any sense. But so let's say Britain came over and like destroyed, like killed a bunch of horses so the North couldn't do something. So Britain has sided with the South if they feel the North did something they weren't supposed to. So us going over there, destroying Syrian air bases, or a Syrian air base, we have now sided with the other side. Anybody want to take a fucking stab at what the other side is here? It's moderate. It's moderate. What do they call them? Moderate rebels, right?
Right.
That's what they called Al Qaeda when we were funding Al Qaeda. That's what they called ISIS when we were funding ISIS.
Back in the day, they were insurgents. They just always changed the name. Every time you want to do something new, they just change the name of who we're doing it to or with.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. So when we were giving Osama bin Laden weapons to fight the Russians, he was a moderate rebel. Mm-hmm. And then when he attacked us, we were like, oh, he's fucking crazy. Like, and that's what So think about it. That's what we're doing in Syria.
Right.
And then you also have to roll back and say, why the fuck would Assad gas his own
Okay,
people?
pause there
Give
for a
me the
second.
answer.
Pause there for 1 second. Pause there for 1 second. I want to rewind to talking about,
Your
you know,
dad.
well, that too. But like the equivalence of what if this happened to us? What would I think? You can think of real life situations now. What if Russia bombed one of our bases because the government was poisoning the water in Flint, Michigan? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What if one police plaza in New York City got bombed because of unarmed civilians being shot by police?
Mm-hmm.
You can do this with any number of real life situations that are happening right now in America that we would not accept as another country stepping in to do this to us.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
So-
we hate what North Korea does, right? Like we don't
Right.
like the way North Korea treats their people. We think people are starving and stuff.
Right.
We don't attack them. We don't do anything with them.
Right.
Nothing.
Now, back to what you said about why would Assad bomb his own people with a chemical attack, right? You're talking about...
Oh, if you give me like
No.
these are psychos or like these
I'm not going to say that. I wouldn't say that about an entire group of people, but you're thinking rationally.
No,
No. That's a rational thought. Why would you bomb your own people with a chemical attack so they die in the worst imaginable way? That's a rational thought.
People,
No, and that's great. But like you're thinking rationally and logically about a situation in a place where people are not known for thinking rationally and logically. You're talking about a place where people strap bombs to their own children, right? You're talking about a place that, sorry to say it, has a national IQ of 80, okay? And you're talking about a place that took millions of slaves from Africa and worked and starved them to death so that they no longer had slaves, so that they did that whole investment, right? If you want to look at it by a completely just business standpoint, they took what would have been today like a trillions of dollars investment and just completely threw it out.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the history of the place you're talking about. So I just don't think when people say, well, why would he do that? That's my response is that, well, you're thinking logically and rationally to become something that's just not logical and rational.
My thought of why he would do that has nothing to do with like, oh, why would he kill his own people? Because I genuinely think that the United States has probably done some terrible thing to its own people at some point.
Tuskegee experiments.
I don't know what that is.
The Tuskegee experiments was back in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
They were giving old black people, poor old black people in the South, syphilis to see what happens to people when they get syphilis.
Yeah, but
and it's untreated.
Yeah.
And they told these people they were going to have the best medical care and that they were going to be fine and they were giving them a vaccine and they tricked them into participating in this experiment.
They were the part of the study that like we don't treat it.
Right. Yeah. So they purposely did it to black people, to poor black people.
Yeah.
And in the South, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. These people were dying, going crazy because that's what syphilis does to you, and they were dying and being sick for the rest of their lives. And when the government or whoever it was, the state or whatever, the medical saviors were rounding everybody up to get their vaccines or to get treated or whatever it was for syphilis, when these people that were part of this experiment went in line, they were like, oh, yeah, you're not supposed to be here, and shoved them off to the side. That was fucking crazy. That's bad.
Yeah, so...
That's really bad, and that was on purpose, and it was also at a different time when we had different values than we do today, so let's be fair about that. But, if somebody had bombed us because of that, that's the same thing we're talking about here.
Yeah, so my argument isn't with, like, when I say why would he do that, it has nothing to do with, like, killing people. Like, I wouldn't put it past any, and I say this openly, I would not put it past any leader in any country to kill their own people for some sort of political gain.
Right.
In this case...
Or to let them die, or to just take their hands off the steering wheel
whatever
leave them to themselves.
Whatever
right?
it is, I don't put it past any.
Right. I don't either. I don't put it past us.
Any foreign leader, any domestic leader.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in saying that, why I was saying it is, obviously it's an unstable area. It's most likely an unstable guy in Assad. But if your goal is to stay in power, it makes no sense. It does, for that aspect, it doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with killing the people. It has nothing to do with anything else. using gas, like if we were able to prove that it was sarin gas, using that would automatically involve the U.S. and other countries.
Right.
So
Well, but I mean, and the reason why, let's take away the emotional knee-jerk reaction of the video of children choking on their own lung fluid for a second, and just say that for a completely objective, this is the rules type reason, that there is an agreement amongst all nations that we are not to have chemical weapons or to deploy chemical weapons on people. So that is a justification as to why this had to happen. Not why it should have happened, why it had to happen. Right? Because any nation that deploys chemical weapons onto any people, like, it's the law. Like, you have to be dealt with.
So, but this is why I don't like democracy. And I know people listening for the first time are going to be like, oh my God, he doesn't believe in democracy. This is why I don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's this exact reason. So we have this treaty that we've made up with all these countries has just decided, the majority, that these are the punishments for using this thing. We're inflicting those punishments on a country that doesn't agree to it. That is saying, even though they have agreed to things in the past. Syria handed over chemical weapons back in 2013 after literally the same exact thing happened. The only difference was that president talked to Congress about it. Mm-hmm. But that's about it. He made a big speech about how Assad needs to be dealt with. But back to Assad. If he was trying to, it makes no sense because it would be the worst play that he can make. If there's one thing that the U.S. is very good at, we don't lead the world in a lot of things. What we lead the world in is changing who's the leader in a country. We are the best at changing regimes. We go in, we say, we post up a bad guy, and we say, that's the bad guy. We fund all the people who don't like that bad guy, and then we help out.
Make a new bad guy.
And then we just we put somebody else in place.
Mm-hmm.
Assad, by doing this, essentially was giving himself the Gaddafi treatment. He's going to be outside his fucking mansion with a sword being shoved up his ass. If he's lucky.
Sounds like a good time, if you ask me.
I mean, Gaddafi looked like he loved it.
You should have seen the look on his face.
Absolute euphoria. You've never seen anything like it.
So, okay. You have... So we have this other part of this story, okay? We have this video that is shown about... that has all the kids, children, women, no one cares about the men, so we don't mention them.
Yeah.
Dying, choking on their own vomit, choking on their own blood. Just in case someone out there doesn't know, when you get hit with a nerve agent, a nerve gas agent like VX gas or sarin gases, which is what they said happened here, it is the worst way to die imaginable. You convulse so hard that you break your own back. You choke on your own blood and vomit and start leaking out of every orifice. And in some cases, it can be like if you ever seen what was the movie The Rock? Remember the movie The Rock?
About the prison.
Well, yeah, they ended on Alcatraz.
Yeah. I've seen it.
But yeah, a lot of it took place on Alcatraz actually. Yeah. When they had like the little radiation glass balls and it broke and they started. Yeah. That's what it looks like when someone dies from like a nerve agent. Now with something like a chlorine gas, you more or less choke and it makes your lungs fill up with fluid and you drown.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. A lot of people were saying this video is fake. A lot of people were saying this chemical attack was a hoax. And it wasn't just the normal Alex Joneses and Paul Joseph Watsons who are always calling out the false flag attacks. There were some pretty high up there reputable people that were saying this, right? Did you say Ron Paul was one of them at one point? Or something like that?
I don't think Ron Paul touched on the video being fake. He doesn't dive into conspiracy theories like that. He's more of where I got the talking points of this doesn't make sense.
Right.
And he also mentioned that when this exact thing happened in 2013, there was also red flags then. So he hasn't come out and said like, oh, this video is fake, but he's...
Yeah. So I I'm not. I would never just go hardline when I see a bunch of children dying. That, oh my God, this is fake. I think that's extremely disrespectful, and I would never do that. But I am always willing to entertain any idea, right, and just talk about it, right. So if you look at this video, which one thing that we never see from a terrorist attack or from a mass shooting or from a truck attack in France, right, is the bodies of the people that are dead, right? The bodies of the people that were killed, their faces, or them screaming in pain. We don't see that, right? We see a sheet over what looks like a body. We see people crying. We never see the actual bodies.
Well, for the respect of the family, usually.
Right. Now that changed all of a sudden, right? Now we're seeing a real video of the process of children choking on their own fluid and what is torture. You can only like describe it as torture, and they're dying and choking and screaming and bleeding, and it's a horrible, terrible video that almost seems like it was pushed out on purpose in order to get an emotional reaction from millions and millions of people.
But we've seen
and
this
that
out of
actually
Syria.
worked.
We've been
right?
seeing this for years.
But there's more about the video that I want to mention too.
Okay.
When you look in the video, the white helmets, who are the people who rescue the people when they're bombed and everything, none of them have any kind of MOP gear on, which is mission-oriented protective posture, which is a military protective suit from NBC warfare, nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare. Okay? I think there's one picture of someone wearing a gas mask. Nobody's wearing gloves. They're wearing short sleeves, nothing like that. If there was sarin gas released into the air, nobody in that vicinity would be on their feet helping other people, right? Unless they had complete MOP gear on that they got on before they were hit with the gas, right?
How much time does it like once one of these things, is it like
to kick in?
Is it no? I'm saying like is it like nuclear where the radiation's gonna last?
Oh no, that I don't know for sure, but it would imagine smoke clearing, right?
Oh, okay.
But it also residue gets on stuff. Okay, so when these white helmets are walking around giving CPR, dragging people, they're touching skin that has sarin gas on it. You're getting sarin gas on you, right? Yeah. So you cannot touch somebody who is dying from a sarin gas attack without dying from a sarin gas attack. You know what I'm saying? So there's in what I've heard in being talked about in circles is there's one of three things happening here. One is that it wasn't sarin gas, right? It might have been chlorine gas, okay? Two is that white helmets are impervious to nerve gas.
I like that one.
Right?
Yeah.
Three is that it was a hoax. I'm not inclined to believe the hoax. I'm more inclined to believe that it wasn't sarin gas and they just got that information wrong. But now, if they got the information wrong about what kind of gas it was, what else did they get wrong?
What haven't we got wrong?
Well, I'm saying about this specific thing. So we have, within 24 hours, we have a military reaction to this. Yeah. Right? Within 24 hours, and I'm sure the people higher up know way more than we do. Obviously, they know stuff that we don't know, right? That they're not going to expose to us.
Yeah.
So we're kept in the dark.
I think they make things
a lot more than they are. But we've also had this happened when they really didn't even have all their facts straight, right? They weren't sure if it came from Assad or if it came from Assad bombing ISIS compound that had chemical weapons and released into the air. There were at least 3 or 4 different narratives that were floating around while those Tomahawk missiles were flying in the air.
Russia released an official narrative. That Trump was able to read before making his decision. And their narrative was that there was a targeted airstrike that hit a compound where where ISIS was storing chemical weapons, and that's what. And they didn't know that there was chemical weapons there, and that's how this happened. Right. We just completely ignored it, didn't investigate it at all. But think about how many times throughout the course of history, especially recent history, that this has happened. I mean, Colin Powell sat in front of the UN with a fucking vial of God knows, it was fucking baby formula or something. Like, well, we did tests, and Iraq has weapons of mass destruction because, obviously, I'm holding a vial. Right. So, and we continue to do this. We also literally paid an actress to say that Saddam Hussein was taking babies out of incubators.
Oh, that was Desert Storm you're talking about? That was...
Yeah.
Yeah. And that never happened.
No. She was the ambassador's daughter who was taking acting classes.
I remember. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't remember it. I was 6 years old when it happened. I remember hearing about it recently again.
Yeah. So, and we've done this, and you can count back through every single intervention we've been in.
Right.
Every single, even the ones that we think are quote unquote justified. So even like Afghanistan, there's things that we kind of just either over like sold or something like that. Like, remember, we invaded a country looking for a person who wasn't from that country and really didn't have deep ties into that country, and we invaded that country and are still in that country.
Right.
Even though we caught him in a different country and killed him. So this is and everyone know, like, most of these things are common knowledge that no, we know they lied about that, but like they must be telling, they wouldn't send Tomahawk missiles to this airbase and potentially put us in World War III if it wasn't completely legit.
Right.
Are you sure they wouldn't? Because they have a really bad track record.
I want to back up for a second because we've missed a lot of opportunities to talk about this as it was unfolding, right? This is the first time we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So we could have talked about it when the chemical attack happened. We could have talked about it when the bombing happened. We could have talked about it when the blah, blah, blah. So I want to try to go in chronological order of all the stuff we missed.
All right.
Because we're freaking the idiots that are late to the party.
Yeah.
you know what I'm
like
saying?
a timeline or something?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not really timeline. Just first we had the chemical attack that happened.
Yeah.
Then we had Trump's reaction to it, which I believe the one thing, going back to people flip-flopping their idea about our president because of this, is that we had leftists who were, yes, Christopher Columbus, we are taking callers. We are taking callers if you want to call in.
Are we?
Look at that.
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
We have Skype on here. I think you can, wait, let me just sign into the Skype real quick, okay, to make sure that we're going. The Rogue Millennials, you can search for that in Skype. Let me just make sure it is working. Skype name, the Rogue Millennials. I just want to say something, finish my thought real quick. So we had...
Great thought.
Sorry. I'm just trying to... Wait, let me see. Email address...
I can't wait to hear what Christopher Columbus's idea is. I hope it's like make Florida East or something.
What?
Get it? Because he wants to like go there and take over the land and the new Florida. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. Before you call it, Chris, we're gonna call it the new Florida. Get that out of the way.
Hold on, just one more second. I'm sorry, guys. I thought I was signed into Skype and I'm not, and now I just forgot my. Login. Let's see if this works.
What do you have, like a number for it, or like?
Yeah, I have. Let me see. I have a phone number. Jesus Christ, man! Can I sign in with Facebook? Sorry, I cannot type and do this at the same time.
So we'll just have a real awkward silence for a few minutes.
Okay, so hold on. I think we're up here. Let's see. Oh my God. Okay, listen, it says we can't start Skype because the system is unavailable. It might be because we're live streaming. I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep trying it. Let's keep talking. I'm gonna keep trying it. I apologize for that.
All right. So we were at the timeline of events.
Right. Okay. So we have Trump's reaction to it, which we had all the people who hated Donald Trump when he was campaigning. Right. They said, well, he's gonna get emotional and not know when to hold his mouth shut, and he's gonna say one thing and get us involved in World War III. Right. So this happens, and Donald Trump does what I believe was exactly that, had an emotional reaction to something, and and committed a military action that could potentially cause a military reaction, right? Any kind of military action that our country takes has a very high potential for creating a military reaction from whoever we did it against.
I'm not worried about
right?
the military reactions, and that's the thing that a lot of people.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah,
any war reaction, any act of war,
like,
any aggressive reaction against us. Yeah,
right.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, and it is very obvious to me, at least, that this was not a kind of objective thought that caused this reaction, right? Because we have people in Syria being killed every single day. We have men, women, and children. All right. When it's men, no one cares. We already know that.
Their largest city was leveled, essentially.
Right.
Millions of refugees.
Right.
People.
Right. Now, when this happened, we have a video come out. A heart-wrenching video that I'm going to cry just thinking about it. It was fucking terrible. That video was terrible, right? It was extremely emotional.
I don't like.
But I think that video is what got a lot of people in our country who are usually totally against war and don't want us bombing anybody, got a lot of people in our country on board with that shit. That was emotional. I'm sorry. Even when Trump was making his speech and talking about why he's doing this, he said the little babies. It was the little babies that got to me. There's people dying there every day, but now because you see a video of babies, which is terrible, I have to keep saying that, that's horrible, and whoever did that deserves for that to happen, it's still none of our business.
Whoever did that deserves for us to ruin some of their tarmac.
Right. But it's like,
But so these videos have been out for so long. Like, remember the video of the little kid washing up on the shore of Greece?
Right.
The little refugee kid washing up on the shore. Like, those videos I've already seen those and been affected by those. And I was affected to say, like, all right, you know what? I don't want to pay for these refugees to come here, but if they can get here on their own accord, or there's some sort of charity out there that's going to support them to get them here, absolutely. Like, that's fine. Because I saw a video of a kid wash up on the shore of Greece who got in a boat, not because, like, oh, we're going to go get free health care or something. No, he got in a boat because he was like, oh, well, my house got destroyed by a bomb. All my friends are dead. And my family said, if we don't move, we'll probably be dead too. Like, that's the way I looked at it. And a lot of people, I got a lot of shit from the right saying, like, oh, no, like, these people are just looking for handouts, and no one in the Muslim community will give them handouts, so they want to come to our communities to get handouts. And I'm not giving handouts. I don't want to give handouts. I don't want to give handouts to the white people I know, let alone the Syrians I know, or anything like that. Like, I just don't want to give handouts. I'll give to charity and things, but I don't want to be forced to give handouts, I should say. And I don't know, but truly, I do believe that Trump is so easily influenced by what he sees, and he's openly admitted that what he does is watches Fox News. He's quoted Fox News before, like when they've said, like, oh, that's not correct, and he's like, I think I saw it on Fox News. So, and I'm not trying to say, like, oh, Fox News is terrible. They're all fucking terrible. Every single one of them are terrible.
Right. If you're the president, you need to get your information from more sources than mainstream media, though.
Yeah, Fox leans right terribly. CNN leans left terribly, but they're equally as terrible in every way, shape, and form. CNN just sprinkles in some really terrible social justice warrior stuff where Fox doesn't do that.
And they have been caught lying multiple times.
Well, they all
caught
have.
with their pants down, and still. But I don't want to get too sidetracked talking about mainstream media, but we were talking about this the other day with my friends. Is that what is the approval rating for the mainstream media is like between 6 and 9% for the country, but yet people won't believe a news story unless they saw it on the mainstream media.
Yep.
How do we reconcile those two?
Yeah, so like the
things. How does that work?
I sent you a very well written article from Ron Paul Liberty Report, and you would he's literally considered fake news. Like, he has been condemned as like fake propaganda, conspiracy theory news. But when the stuff comes out and it's correct, the same thing with Alex Jones. Alex Jones is an absolute fucking whack job. Off of his rocker, thinks everything is conspiracy theory. But when he gets shit right, everyone ignores it. So if he gets something right, everyone's like, oh no, but you know, he said Sandy Hook was fake and that's disrespectful to the families. And I completely agree. I think it's ridiculous. I've been to that town. Like, it's fucking, it's an eerie place to be. Like, it just, you get like chills up your spine being in that town now. And that's disrespectful to his views on it. But you can't take away the things that he's gotten correct because of that. Like, this guy was talking about how the deep state and Halliburton was going to get us into a war with Iraq before fucking 9/11. He was saying this stuff. Like, so it's just, I don't know. Everyone gets discredited, it seems, unless you're on on TV. Like, you're discredited unless you're news on TV.
Right. Which is insane to me. It's so weird that it's like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't get it. Listen, I don't know if I should do this. I really want. There we go. Hold on. Hopefully we can sign in now. I really want Christopher Columbus to be able to sign in here. Let's see if it works. Damn it. Sorry about this, guys. This is embarrassing. I guess I'm signed in somewhere else or something like that. It's not letting me do it. I'm still going to be working on it. Let's just keep talking. I'm sorry about that. Listen, if you want to... Let's just do this one more time.
Every time you make that noise, I know that you don't know what you're going to say or do. So you go...
True. You got me. Thanks.
Like a...
Listen, go search the Rogue Millennials on Skype, and we can maybe do it from my phone because I have Skype on my phone, and maybe that's why it's not working on the computer. So if you want to call there, we can all hear you right here, and the microphone will hear you and everything. So if that's what you want to do, Christopher Columbus, please do it. We will be awaiting your call. So anyway, where were we before I got sidetracked?
Trump's reaction.
Yeah,
so we were still attempting to go through the timeline of events,
right?
Because we missed some key time in there to have some shows.
Okay, so one thing that we have not heard anything about in the news was, so all right, back up. People are commending and praising President Trump for this because when you're a new president and something like this happens, you have one shot to prove yourself, correct? If he didn't do anything, the other half of the country would have been calling him a pussy and saying whatever, and he's a bad president. Okay, so it was almost, depending on how you look at it, a lose-lose or a win-win for Trump. Like, does that make sense? Because either half the country was going to hate him, half the country was going to love him. It's just which half was going to feel which way.
Go with the half.
Kind of.
I mean, it's the same. And both outcomes are the same. Just go with the half where you don't bomb anything.
Right, and that makes sense. That also makes sense.
Like, so the outcomes are identical. Because that's everyone's argument now. They're saying this didn't lead to any war. We're not having any more intervention there. Russia isn't mad at us. And that's what people are saying.
Right.
So my counterpoint to that has been, so why didn't we just do nothing and save our fucking $60 million in Tomahawks?
Well, also, what happened was the president showed his balls, showed how tough he was. Everyone said, they're never going to do that again. And didn't they immediately launch another chemical attack on the same town?
I don't know what the fuck they did. But now ISIS is going to use that as a tool. So if that's what... It's common knowledge that now Trump's got an easy trigger finger. So now what are they going to do? They're just going to keep throwing up false flags, pointing at Assad until Trump goes in there and takes Assad out.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking Clinton, Bush, fucking McCain.
If Hillary Clinton was the president, this would have happened on day one. Yeah, instead of day 101 or whatever it was.
Day like 82. We didn't even get to 3 months yet.
Yeah.
We weren't even at the 90s yet.
Right.
Into the 90s yet.
This would have been the first thing because she was talking about, when she was still running, she was talking about how them hacking our election was going to be treated like a act of war or something, right? Or who was saying that? Was that her or Obama?
Well, Obama kicked out the ambassadors, right? But
I don't remember. Well, so irrelevant at this point.
Her idea was the no-fly zone in Syria, which
would have forced us to have a war with Russia. That's what I was.
Here's the
you're
thing,
right.
though, is liberals were cheering it, not knowing that during the primaries when Trump was like, it's none of our fucking business, all of the Republicans were saying, we need to do something. We need a no-fly zone.
Mm-hmm.
Marco Rubio was saying it. I don't think Ted Cruz jumped on it, but of course Jeb Bush was saying it. I mean, that, like, he's a fucking Bush. Like, he's ready. Like, yeah, no, we should totally take control of whatever they're doing.
Right.
But it was a just common thing there, and Trump was outside of that. And it's a reason a lot of people liked him. You can never downplay the anti-war movement.
Right.
People fucking hate war. I don't care if you're a fucking Navy SEAL or you're a fucking a hippie who works at a head shop. People hate war, especially unjustified war.
We are getting a phone call right now from Christopher Columbus. It's from Columbus, Ohio. That's why it's Christopher Columbus. I get it. I get it. Good afternoon. Is this Christopher Columbus?
Yes, it is.
Thank you for calling from Columbus, Ohio. You are on the Rogue Millennial Podcast. How's it going, my friend?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
You're kind of breaking up.
Really? Are you good? Can you hear me?
I heard you say really, that was it. Everything else has kind of been breaking up.
Wow, okay.
We can hear you loud and
Yeah,
clear.
we can hear you fine. How are you right now?
Did you say, how am I?
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I've been moving in and out, listening to the show. So forgive me, I don't know where you are now because I'm doing everything here.
Well, how about tell us what you think so far?
What do you got? What do you got?
What was that?
Well, what do you think of the show so far?
Pretty good. You guys got your mics going. You guys are sounding good. Your levels are great. You're not over-modulating. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am talking to you on my cell phone right now, so we are pretty low tech.
Yeah, I have I
Skype.
have a communication engineering degree. So.
The Skype on the computer was not working, so you're on speakerphone on a cell phone right now.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said the Skype on the computer is not working, so you're on a speakerphone of a cell phone right now.
On speakerphone?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have something to add? I know. So we gotten.
I can't hear you.
Ah, man, I don't know why this is happening. I have perfect service right now. Is your service not good?
No, I mean we can hear him fine, so it must be good.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, man.
We're gonna get this worked out.
How about now?
We'll get it for a new call.
Yeah, damn it.
Would it be better to take me off speakerphone to ask questions than put me back on speakerphone, I guess? Because I can't really hear you.
Sure, let's
Give
try
it a
that.
try.
Let's try that. All right, so what can you hear me? Yeah, he's not even
It's
answering
not
now.
gonna work. All right, we can't
All right.
do
Yeah, I
2
can't-
minutes
yeah.
of failed.
I can't hear anything.
All right, I'm sorry, man. This is Well, we're gonna have to try this another time. I really apologize for this. I'll get the Skype working and we'll figure it out. Okay.
Figure it out. That's all I got.
All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
All right, bye.
No, he's a good dude. We're gonna talk to him again.
Yeah, we're
I'm
gonna have
sorry
to,
about this. This is not going well.
We're gonna have to figure this out because so far we've had about 8 minutes of just like
Yeah.
typing or
Yeah,
trying
so
to get something to work.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. We are going to figure this out because he does have some good things to say. He really does. We were talking on Twitter earlier today. We got in a little fisticuffs at first, and then we ended up kind of being respectable to each other. And I asked him to call in if he wanted to, so that he was invited to call in, and he will be invited again to call in. We're just gonna have to figure out the technical reason why the Skype isn't working. So anyway, what were we on a second ago before he called? Oh man, this is terrible.
We were basically through the timeline of events.
Right.
We were on to Russia and the overall election and the thoughts on Russia, which, I mean, now we haven't heard a lot come from these strikes. So what did we do them for?
Mm-hmm.
And if their answer is just, oh, we did them for the gas tax, okay, so what if they do it again? What's our next course of action?
That's
the part that they never want to fucking answer. They always just want to say like, oh, well, we're doing this because of this to prevent this or something.
Right.
But then if you raise your hand and say like, hey, what if this doesn't work? There's like, this can work. Like, remember fucking Bush saying that democracy was going to spread through the region when we invaded Iraq?
So, okay, so here's the thing. here's a thing that's going to be a very unpopular thing to say. I mentioned before that you're talking about a part of the world that has a national IQ of 80 on average, which means the average IQ of Middle Eastern countries is around 80. In America, it's 100.
Okay.
All right. National IQ has an enormous effect on the social, political, cultural climate of that country. Okay. Scholars that have to do with this stuff will tell you that when the national IQ is around 90 or below, a functioning democracy is not really possible, right? So there's no countries that have a national IQ below 90 where there is a peaceful, functioning, productive government or society. And it's just, I'm sorry. It's just, I don't know what else to say to that. It's just
you didn't make the statistics. You didn't make.
No, I don't make this stuff up. Is what I'm saying. This is easily. I mean, if you have a problem with me saying this, you can easily prove me wrong, or verify it. This is verifiable.
You and I talked about that a while ago, and I don't think it was on any sort of podcast, but you kind of enlightened me to some of this stuff, and you spoke about it, and I've heard some counter arguments since. Some of them I think hold up pretty well. Like, so they spoke about. The one that I heard was about because Jewish people are very high on the
Ashkenazi Jews have the highest IQs out of any other race in the world.
And the argument for that, and essentially the reasoning behind it, which to me sounded very logical, and correct me if there's some sort of research to deny this, was back during when kind of Catholicism was taking over and starting to become the dominant religion, and the Vatican kind of ruled the world, had the strongest army in the world, et cetera, et cetera. No one read. No one was not that they weren't allowed to read. A lot of people weren't allowed to read in that religion, but no one could read the religion either. The Bible wasn't transcribed into something that people could actually understand in modern times until I think it was like the 1400s. So for like a 500-year period, the only people in the world that were still reading were Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And I think it was European Jews for a while. Like, I don't know.
Ashkenazi Jews are European Jews.
Okay, that's European Jews. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
not like Israelis, right?
Yeah.
There's
never mind. I was going to make a joke about how they didn't exist.
So there's actually a few different reasons why they think this happens, right?
Okay.
So you have two different trains of thought. One is that it's biological, and we're not only talking about Ashkenazi Jews, we're talking about everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, that this is a biological thing that we evolved to be this way. This also seems to be the most controversial and racist. It's looked at as controversial and racist, this explanation, for reasons that I don't know, right? It's not controversial to say that a pit bull has a different temperament than a chihuahua, right? Like, that's not controversial.
That sort of is in today's world.
Whatever. I mean, that a black bear is more aggressive than a brown bear, or the other way around, or polar bears. It's not. This is not controversial. We're animals just like anyone else. Our biology and our evolution can be studied just like anyone else. This whole thing where race is a social construct and everything just depends on society is absolutely ridiculous, because if they find the pile of bones that I buried in my backyard, right, they can tell what race this person was. They can tell if it's Caucasoid, Negroid, Mongoloid, right, which is white, black, Asian, which are the three main races biologically. Okay, they can tell by a strand of your hair.
What are Spanish people like?
A mixture of white, black, and Native American. I'm not sure.
What's Native American?
Well, I'm not sure if Native American is considered its own. Like Native American, Aztec, like the Americas, right? Eskimos, everybody. If that's considered like its own race by this point, or if it's a mixture of like Asian and African. Because, look, every race is a mix of other races, really, right? I think white is not. I think Caucasoid is not.
Well,
don't quote me on that one.
The little that I do know, I know that North America was not. In the Americas were not inhabited until like 40,000 years ago.
Well, yeah, because people came out of Africa, went up through Asia, then across the Bering Strait, and down Alaska, Canada, all the way through here.
So,
right.
Whereas we date back a couple 100,000 years in other parts of the world, that we only date back 40,000 years on these two continents.
Right.
So I get that piece.
So the argument, the research that this is biological and evolutionary, we evolved to be that way, says this, that let's say you live in a part of the world that has an abundance of resources, okay? You never have to worry about running out of food. Let's say you eat grass. You're a rabbit, okay? Whatever, you eat grass. Any organism, any animal. We're not only talking about humans or races or whatever. You evolved to the environment that you live in, right? And you evolved to that environment.
Yeah.
If you live in a place that has an overabundance of resources, you never have to worry about starving. You can always just eat, and copulate and reproduce as much as humanly possible, okay? You have no reason to do things like defer gratification, even though you're hungry now, and save your food through the winter and save your seed crop or something like that so that your family and your future generations can survive. You have no reason to do that. So you have no reason to evolve that part of your brain to do that, which is where we start seeing intelligence, right? So things like intelligence is not just knowing how to do math, right? It's having intelligent behaviors that are going to ensure your survival and the survival of other people in the future, like your offspring, right? So for instance, not being able to think of consequences of something before you commit that action is a mark of low intelligence, right? Not being able to see past your nose and always just working off of instinct and knee-jerk reactions is a mark of low intelligence. Being able to not eat the piece of bread you have now when it's your last one left because you have to save it for your daughter or something or someone else, or you have to piece it out a little bit at a time. That's a mark of higher intelligence, right? Now the reason that we evolved to be to have higher intelligence is because we started moving around to different parts of the world where we would have things like winter, right? We have to learn how to deal with the cold, like taking the skin off of an animal and wrapping it around you so you stay warm, right? Or how to save food through the winter when you know you're going to be running low so that you can have it to eat in the spring, right? To be, what is it called? When you're like saving, whatever. Rationing, right? To ration stuff so you can survive later. Also eating protein, right? Eating meat. When we started cooking with fire and eating meat and everything, they think that protein made our brains grow.
Yeah, no,
more.
I know about the protein.
Right, then eating other animals.
Arguments against vegetarians all the time.
Right, so that's why they're not very intelligent. So,
but here's my other piece to this that's I feel is very, very important. You're speaking about things that people had to do for either survival or even take it to like a social construct. Like they had to do this for their society. Mm-hmm. They had to do these things for the first time. But IQ doesn't really correlate to your ability to learn something. Like if somebody else already has that information, like so.
Well, no, that's what IQ is, though. That's what intelligence is. It's your ability to learn. Really, it's not.
But IQ is more. I thought, like identified as your ability to problem solve. That's why they're able to make a universal test for it. And my example is this. Like so, let's say bring my family back 2,000 years or something, and we're in Ireland, and we have to grow crops or something. My let's say my grandfather was the first one that figured out how to grow potatoes or something. Let's go that crazy. Like my grandfather was the first guy to figure out how to grow potatoes. That means my dad didn't have to learn. My dad didn't have to figure out how to grow potatoes. He just had to learn from somebody telling him how to grow potatoes, and so on and so forth. So I feel like IQ, as it's still an important factor, it isn't everything because now, I mean, look at you and I. So you and I do a lot of research about topics that we're interested in, whether it's politically, socially, anything like that. And for you, your fitness and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You didn't go do, so you have tons of information about fitness and nutrition. You didn't go and do tests on this and create hypotheses and do all these things.
Right, I just read it.
You've learned from someone else's knowledge. It's the same thing as the theory of relativity. Mm-hmm. He had a large IQ and the ability to create the theory of relativity. But someone with a low IQ can understand it and learn it. But to be the first person to create it that's a different story. Not
Absolutely,
just
100%.
yeah. So
Now,
that's where
can someone with a low IQ do something with it though?
Yeah, I
Right?
absolutely think so because I truly do.
Like you can like I mean I've had the theory of
Relativity.
I'm not the high intelligence one. I've had the theory of relatively. Fuck.
Yeah, that
Relativity.
Puerto Rican, he was really killing your IQ.
Explained to me many times, and I couldn't teach it to somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it is, and also I'm not going to affect any change with that information. There's nothing I can do with that information other than say, "Hey, did you know this interesting thing about the theory of
All
relativity?"
right, well, so take
Like-
something that you can do something with. So, like, let's say the invention of electricity.
Okay.
Before that, it was fucking sorcery, literally magic.
Right.
And now it's just common, like, oh, no. Like, that just runs on electricity. It's pretty simple. Like, It's just electricity. And we can create it, and you could create it, like, very simply.
Right.
That even, like, fucking, you could do, like, the potato thing that you did when you were in, like, elementary school or something. Like,
Right.
That's what I mean, is that your IQ is important for the creation of things. But once things are created, not saying that we're where we need to be, there still needs to be the Elon Musks of the world and things like that. But we're at a point now where these civilizations, and it's what you and I say a lot in, like, political debates. If you choose to, if you're ignorant, it's a choice at this point. Like, if you don't know something, it's a choice. Like, and I say that a lot to people when I speak to them about, like, when somebody asks me for, like, business advice. I always give it. I have the conversations, but I also preface it by saying, like, hey, all the stuff that I know about what's made me successful in business and how I've been able to get to the point I'm at with the businesses that I've run is simply because I went out and found the information. Right. I literally have a device that I carry around with me that I can just ask fucking questions. And
Right.
it's the smartest human that ever has existed. And it just sits in my pocket. Like, and so we're at that point. And even civilizations that don't have the technology that we have, they still have people who have learned things throughout the course of history.
Right. So to get back to the Middle East stuff, right?
Okay.
When you have an entire country who has the average IQ that does not have the average IQ that it takes to invent electricity or invent an iPhone, right?
But there's been people throughout there. Like, so if...
Well, so think about this, right? So in a place like Syria or Iraq or a Middle Eastern country, the people with the highest intelligence, right, in a place that is run by religion are probably religious scholars, right? Or the imams, right, of Islam.
That's how we were
Right.
for...
Exactly. Just like
years,
rabbis in the Jewish community, right, are usually the ones of the highest intelligence.
Yeah.
When you have the people of the highest intelligence that are teaching the people of lower intelligence how to live, and the people with the highest intelligence have views that run the Middle East, I mean, that's just a downward spiral, or it's usually going to be stagnant, right? I mean, it's not... You're not going to advance a lot of...
to
a lot of places.
Go back 65 years in the Middle East.
True. And so that's my question. What was the difference in 1960s Afghanistan when you had girls walking around in pantsuits and everyone driving Cadillacs just like we did here? What was the difference?
It clearly wasn't an IQ issue, right?
Well, I mean, they didn't invent that
you-
stuff. They
we-
adopted it from other parts of the world, from the Western world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They didn't invent that stuff.
Yeah, and then-
so
but
what
through
was it? Was it when Islam started kind of coming in and having more of a stranglehold and Sharia law on the country? Like, what was it that made that kind of downward spiral into what we have today?
Propaganda. What happened in North Korea? You said it yourself that Asians are up there on the scale, right? So, like, the people of North Korea probably have a higher IQ than, like, wherever you and I fall into, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever category you and I fall into, their category is higher than ours, correct? So why is it that they live under that? Like, why are things like that there?
Well, I mean, just because you're smart doesn't mean you can't be scared of somebody who's really powerful. You know, I mean,
and just because you're dumb doesn't mean that you can't be scared of somebody that's really powerful, or
True.
overthrow somebody that's.
I mean,
really
I think,
powerful.
but if you're not smart, then you're going to be more susceptible to just following blindly instead of being scared into submission. You're going to think, oh, this guy has a good idea, right? People in North Korea are probably miserable and are there because they're terrified of their leader and doing that, right? People in the Middle East are looking up to this guy and saying he might, and I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. I can't say that I know what they're thinking, but
look at democracies. How far are socialized, like democratic socialists? How far away are they from North Korea? Like how in their heads they think that they're like Donald Trump in his head thinks that like he couldn't be any more different than North Korea. But to me, who I feel is kind of the outside looking in, being an anarcho-capitalist, I see them both kind of cut from the same cloth. Like, I don't see a major difference between the United States and North Korea. And I know I will catch so much shit for that. I know I will just... The heavens will rain down upon me for saying such blasphemy. But think about it. Take out, like, the crazy shit. Take out, like the war parades and stuff like that that they still have in Korea. We did similar shit to that. Like, the thing in Captain America where they have him like selling war bonds, that's not a fucking joke.
No,
like,
it's
we
real.
Actually
Yeah,
used
that really
to have,
happened.
We used to go to towns and have like plays to sell war bonds, and like the support our troops sticker that you guys put on your car, like they used to get those when you bought war bonds.
right.
Like, support our boys, like buy a war bond and we'll give you this little trinket to do it. And like, so we've operated our quote unquote democracy through propaganda, and we've created a place where we control the people who live there. So how different is it than North Korea? And if you say it's a threat of violence, you have the threat of violence. If you choose not to be a part of our system, there is violence. If you choose not to be part of North Korea's system, there is violence.
True.
So it's just, to me, I still back your side of it, and I think that it's important for somebody to talk about, hey, there is a difference in IQ that can lead to some of these social constructs being a little off. And I think that's an important conversation to have, but I also think that there's a counter argument to it that, in me looking into it a little bit more, has started to make a little bit more sense.
So I just fact-checked myself about the whole second chemical attack.
Yeah.
Because I did hear that somewhere, but it was not plastered all over the place like the first one was.
Hey, you're fake news.
So it was the same town that got attacked last Tuesday now? Yeah, last Tuesday was targeted in a new airstrike on Saturday, local sources say. I heard about this just by articles floating around on Facebook and stuff like that, but it was not something that was being talked about in a mainstream kind of way. Now, is it because this shows obviously that what Donald Trump didn't work?
They don't care.
Right? Like, I mean, because we had the big thing. We had everyone praising him, saying, oh, you got big balls, kid. Like, we showed them, and they're not going to do that shit again. And they immediately did that shit again.
You know who
But
apparently
and
has
then
big
and then we
balls?
kind of just didn't talk about it after that. So that's the thing. It's like we thought this was going to work when he struck back. It didn't, and we kind of just looked the other way.
It's what we always do.
Right.
It's literally what we always do.
Right. And
Even when the country agrees that, like, yeah, that was fucking stupid. Like, look at how many people think right now that the war in Iraq was a major blunder. It's crazy, and we're only what, 12 years removed from attack. What was that? October of 2005 when we attacked Iraq,
for the first time, it was
the first
03.
bombings. Was it 03?
03.
Wasn't that
Yeah.
long ago?
No, 05 was this. I was. That's where I was there. That's when we did Operation Phantom Fury. Sorry, that was 04. It went into 05.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but think about it. So we're only 15 years removed, and it's crazy. Like, everyone is like, yeah, that was fucking stupid. Look at how long it took for us to think of Vietnam as
Hold
being
on, real
just
quick.
ridiculous.
We got to try this again because Christopher Columbus keeps messaging us really good stuff. Like, he knows what he's talking about and he has some stuff to say.
Let's do it.
So let's try this again. You're on the line, Chris. What's happening? Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great.
I was just caught a little bit on the tail end there about, you said, a second attack in Syria, correct?
Correct.
Fake news.
Well, some backstory, I guess, for people who don't know.
Okay.
Me and you was going on about, basically I was saying, look, this is just political theater, has nothing to do with Syria, people should calm down. Well, I mean, having a second attack in Syria kind of shows that, you know, the first one was just that, political theater. Any incoming president, big guy in town, new boss, strong man, he's going to have some kind of show of force. That's what this was. That's all it was. And,
I get that,
frankly,
yeah.
I think he's off to... What's that?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was saying I understand that.
So I think that by continuing on this path of that America's doing this, America's doing that, it's not very good. You can't have weakness. You can't have any area where a wedge could be driven. And maybe that's part of the plan. Whenever you have a military conflict, the best thing to do is just fake chaos everywhere. It's actually pretty brilliant. But I just want, again, I'm kind of coming in and out of this, but the Syria thing, it's not that big of a deal. It'll blow over, and it was necessary. It had to have happened, and we're not going to really see, I don't think, too much of it.
Do you really think it'll just be over just as quick as it started? I mean, because we're already really not talking about it anymore. Us talking about it right now is kind of being late to the party, you know? So I really haven't even heard people talking about it recently, only because I like to hang on old stories is the reason why we're talking about this. Have you heard, I mean, are you guys at work talking about this stuff still? Is it like even still in people's minds? Or has it already been forgotten about?
I'm out and about in a lot of things, and I've seen all over the major news networks, which we all know, again. But again, they're mouthpieces and they do their part. They're still talking about it, yes. They're still talking about the whole Syria situation.
Okay. So
CNN, Wolf Blitzer was on there talking about it today.
And how about as far as how Russia feels about this, how Putin feels about this whole thing? Do you know anything about that?
Well, his side is basically doing what they should do, which is kind of backing their interests in the region. It's something that is expected for sure. I don't think there's going to be a great clash between the United States and Russia.
You don't think so? I mean, I don't believe either that that's going to happen, right? Like, it's not something that keeps me awake at night, but I just think that any kind of military action by us warrants a reaction by whoever it happened against, right? And if that means that Russia is on the side of the people that were attacked by our military and have interest there, that they might have a motivation to kind of come at us. Now, in my head, I don't care who thinks we don't have balls or who thinks we're a bitch. I'm just tired of war. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think a lot of people are. Like, we're just tired of it.
Human
Like,
being on this planet, you got to get used to it. I'm sorry.
no, I mean, I get it, but we've also been in the same part of the world for like 16 years now doing the same thing, and it hasn't gotten any better, and it's only gotten worse. You know, and I mean, I've been there, done that, and
quicksand for centuries, not just in the past few decades.
well, no, I know, but we don't have to be there, is what I'm saying. It's really, I believe that it's not our business. I think people getting killed in Syria is absolutely horrible. The children on that video broke my heart. It is also not our problem. Like, is that a cold-hearted thing to say? Is it, like, I think no life outside of America is worth a life inside of America.
The world is kind of pulled and molded together by things that we have not really a clue about. And when those interests fight and when those interests are in conflict with each other, this is what you get. This is the world we live in. And in that kind of world, force is kind of the final arbiter of the day. Violence is the final arbiter of the day. So any kind of perceived weakness could actually be very disastrous. In fact, very not very good for anybody. I mean, America is pretty well protected by two big oceans, but the world's getting smaller and smaller. That's for sure. And this is just a part of this is politics. This is how things operate.
in
Sean?
this system that I want to burn down.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand the points. If you're talking about it inside of this system, I understand all of his viewpoints. But I always step outside of it and think, yeah, you can say that, but we've lived in a lot of really shitty systems throughout the course of history, and the only time you get out of these really shitty systems is by forward thinking. Like, I'm willing to think outside of the box, outside of the fucking room the box is in, outside of the house that the box is in that room. Like, I'm willing to go that far out and think about it. Like, 100 years before slavery was ended, if you brought that up, it would have been like, well, I mean, this is the world we live in. Like, yeah, it's not the greatest, but... And you have to kind of roll it back to that and think that if we can have the biggest, best ideas, those are going to win.
Well, I mean, slavery is definitely taking a back seat, but it's because economically speaking, although it seems kind of counterintuitive, there's been a huge boom technologically since the end of slavery, so it's very beneficial. That's what you got to understand. Is you want to solve a problem, find out a way to make money on it. To find out a way to make money in curing or solving the problem, and that's how the world's always been.
Yeah, but
and
right you're
now
talking
we're living
about
in a very spoiled kind of, particularly us in the West, and so we get detached from a lot of how the world really is. And it's instances like this where you see leaders who have to jock for position on a world stage that create a lot of, oh, I can't believe that. I mean, I would rather live in a world where there's no violence, where there's no intervention. But unfortunately, we're still in that world. We may be, in our little corner of it, kind of ahead in times, but we're still living on that same planet. And if you don't play by those rules, you're going to get killed. You're going to get squashed. It's not going to be good for you.
Essentially, what your argument is utilizing the free market, saying we need to make money on an issue for the issue not to exist. So you're saying the free market is what will solve these issues, yet government intervention is the thing that makes the issue. I can't really grasp my head around the fact that the government removes the free market from things. So when you force someone, so I was forced to pay for Tomahawk missiles to be dropped where I didn't agree with it. And you can say like, oh, well, you live in a democracy, so the people made this choice. No one made this choice except for the guy who was put in a position running on saying, I wasn't going to do this. So essentially what we're doing is saying, well, money fixes all issues, but war can never be fixed. War can be fixed. Don't have governments. Pretty simple.
So that's where me and Sean differ. Let me,
good luck trying to get rid of that. The governments are kind of there,
right. So
to kind of personally protect a lot of big boys.
Right.
We're not at that point yet. You're thinking 500 years down the
right.
road or something. This is how the world is today.
Well,
I agree with you on that, actually, Chris. I agree with you on that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying I agree with you on that some kind of government is needed to protect us. Sean is more of a minarchist, anarchist. I don't want to use the wrong word to describe him. He wants to order off the menu, if you know what I'm saying, always, right? I'm more willing to kind of work with what is available to us, right? And in this instance, it was either we bomb Syria or we don't. And Sean's choice would have been to get rid of the whole freaking government altogether. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So he's more of like way outside the box and kind of ordering off the menu, where I'm more just willing to work with what we have at our disposal, if that makes sense. So I agree with you on that one a little more.
His argument as well. It's just it's not really applicable here right now.
Right. I understand that too. I agree with you on that one.
But again, I've been kind of piecing in and out. So again, I don't know if this is off topic or if this has been discussed or not. But earlier today, this is what my point was to you, was that this was kind of the best move. This is something that should be expected. Big leaders, guys who are, the big boys sit at the big boys tables, they're going to have to do these kind of aggressive actions, period. It's something you're going to have to live with. And frankly, I don't think doing nothing is the best option either, because you still kind of live, in this world how it exists today, where essentially, if you want to get something done, especially in a place that's as diverse as the world, violence violence is the universal language.
But what are we
business
getting
is
done?
Too,
What
but
did
a
we-
lot of people aren't really at that point yet.
So what
this
are
is kind of how things
so
have got to be.
2 parts? What did we get done by doing this, and what were we trying to get done?
Well, what happens with this 59 Tomahawk missile, which actually is not that big of a deal considering the amount of equipment we've been dropping in the region, but it was very publicized.
From Obama.
The timing was,
Yeah.
it was very publicized. The timing was just right. People had a lot of questions about Trump and what kind of a president. So he kind of squashes a lot of that right off the bat. He had this issue with Russia. Now there's seemingly some kind of a divide between the United States and Russia. However, I'd like to see that get fixed. But these kinds of shows of forces are necessary. It's no different than when Kim Jong-un took over North Korea. He had to show that island in South Korea, or else what? Somebody's gonna put a bullet in his head. That's how power operates. And unfortunately, you can cry about it, but this is the kind of world that we live in. Especially on the world stage, violence is kind of how you send messages.
I don't know. That sounds like you drank the Kool-Aid. That's what the vibe I get. It's just like, I understand the thought process and thinking like, yes, violence has always been in our kind of DNA. Like, we've always done it. Every culture has had this violence, but every culture has not had this unnecessary violence. So I get it. Like, Genghis Khan went and spread his seed and took over areas. We're not going and taking over anything. We're not taking any resources. We are not trying to influence any sort of ideology in what we just did. We literally, and you can say it's a small thing. It's not small to me. I mean, it just surely isn't. I get it in the scale of what we've done to these other countries. It was a small intervention, but to me, it was the first time that Trump was kind of got to see under the skirt of the deep state, and the deep state won. That's the way I look at it, because I
Well, if you look at
think,
you want to look at it through that.
All right,
position,
Chris,
Trump
I just want to say one
make
thing,
enemies
Chris.
with the deep state.
Sorry. Here for 1 second. You'll get the final word, okay? Because then we have to wrap it up here in a few minutes, okay? So you could say your piece, and then we're gonna have to let you go. And we really appreciate you calling in. You can call in absolutely anytime you want. By the way,
yeah, I appreciate it.
You have some very intelligent things to say, and we really appreciate it. But go ahead, say what you're gonna say, okay?
We'll just run with the theory of Trump kind of being seduced by the deep state. Okay, if Trump want to play the long game and we really want him to be successful as a president, the worst thing you want to do is make enemies publicly of the deep state. You want to kind of keep them close. You want to kind of keep them by your side. And little things like this, it's sick to say that, yes, it's true when we're talking about violence, but that's kind of how the world operates, like I was saying. You'd want to kind of rein them in. Trump's got to get people in very influential positions of power on his side if he wants to be successful. We're talking about central banks. We're talking about big contributors. We're talking about institutions. And just going in there and threatening and always making opposition to himself where he could kind of slyly get in there and get better leverage, finally be more effective than to go up against these institutions that have been there for decades. Wouldn't it be smart for him to make a play such as this?
I personally, you could be right. I just don't like the idea of putting our nose in other people's business, especially when it's not really ours.
Nobody likes the idea of it, but that's how
Right.
it is.
I get it. Listen, man. I totally understand where you're coming from, and everybody that thinks what you think is coming from, and I hope that you understand where people like us are coming from too. The fact is that you guys got your way, so it's really we're bitching about it after the fact. The fact is that the people that are on that believe what you believe are.
Here's my biggest problem here is we need you guys on our side just as you need us on your side. And when you have issues such as this driving wedge, that's the problem. All
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point too.
That's the issue. So when I'm coming here saying these things, it's to kind of shed some light on the other aspect of this to get that debate kind of going. But having this turn into kind of a wedge issue of, hey, this is us, this is you, Well, that's kind of how it starts. Once that fracture's there, it's not going to be
Yeah.
be replaced.
I don't
It
necessarily.
won't happen.
I don't necessarily see it as splitting people, or at least with my head, not completely apart. You know, I have not abandoned all hope in our country or in our government. I have not completely turned my back on everybody whose side I was on before. I just disagree with this one issue. You know what I'm saying? And I think the mistake that a lot of people make is that they say, well, you disagree with me on this one issue, so go fuck yourself, and you're on the other side and you're the enemy now, and I can never talk to you again. And that's just ridiculous to even think that. And a lot of people think that way.
Yeah, people need to remember who are saying these things like that, because these are the people who are trying to drive the wedge. This is kind of how the movement kind of gets softened. This is kind of how, whatever you want to call it, you know, the unity that exists now shatters.
Right. All right, well, Christopher Columbus from Columbus, Ohio, thank you very much for calling us. You are always welcome to call in because you have some very intelligent things to say, and we really appreciate it. All right, and we'll have the Skype on the computer fixed next time so we don't go through this again.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
All right. Thanks for having me on. Take
Anytime,
care.
anytime. Thank you. That was great.
Yeah,
That was great. He has some good things to say. I mean, we don't have to agree with him, but he still is a very intelligent person. He knows what he's talking about. He has a good set of values. I
can't jump on the good set of values thing.
Really?
I don't know him personally as a person. I'm sure he's a perfectly swell guy. But when you say like, oh no, you need to play with the central bankers, you need to play with the deep state, you need to do these things to ensure that you're on the good graces. Like I don't
almost like you got to do what you got to do just to keep your head above water to stay alive, right? Almost like that.
I can't get on board with it.
Yeah, and
that's the same argument could have been made for the guys shoveling Jews into a train. Like,
right, you're just doing what I have to do.
Hey man,
doing what I got to do to feed my family.
I don't want to be the guy getting thrown on the train, so I got to throw these people on the train.
Doing what I got to do to feed my family. I'm just following orders. I'm just this.
And when you say like a society can't exist without these things, there's plenty of societies that exist today that have never had any aggressive interventions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so where my family comes from in Ireland, the only thing we ever had to deal with, we had the Vikings invade, and then we had the British invade. So all we ever did was fight them off.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, we never left the fucking island. We never went looking for anything else. And there's tons of societies like that. And you can say like, oh, well, those societies aren't advanced or they're not as large. Like, I don't care. Like, it's advanced as it needs to be, and it's perfectly normal today. And you could say that's through British influence or whatever you want. But we don't go looking for a fight, and we shouldn't either. If you consider yourself a conservative, which it seems to me like he does, your number one thing should be we don't go looking for a fight. Read back through all of our founding fathers, the things they had to say. Everything they were about was letting people live their lives and just keeping to yourself. And that's where it's scary to see that stuff. But yeah, as far as like we need to stay, we can't let this drive a wedge and stuff. I mean, the wedge for me was already driven between, like, I was never a Trump supporter. I was never a part of that camp or anything. And I just don't think he was aware of that. Like, he assumed that through speaking with you that I had the same views because we have a show together. I don't think he kind of, like, oh, this is a different breed that I'm kind of in with.
I mean, I was never a Trump supporter either. Of candidate Trump. I was never a supporter of Trump. I was a hater of Hillary. That's the most hardcore I ever went in Trump's direction was going away from Hillary.
I don't know.
All right? It was a default thing. Now, yes, I support our president. I do. Does that mean I support every single decision he makes? Absolutely fucking not. No. I hope he does a great job. He hasn't done anything to really make me mad and want to, oh, Trump, you bastard. You know? I mean, I don't think it was a good idea. I don't hate him now because of it.
Yeah, but
right?
so look at it this way. At the end of these 4 years... And I get that everybody always says the classic line of, well, I wouldn't wish bad upon the president because if he's successful, that means it's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
No, it fucking doesn't. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing. He could be the best president. FDR was revered as one of the best presidents up to that point, right?
I did not know that. No, I did not.
Oh yeah, FDR was everybody's favorite because they said like, oh well, he got us out of the Depression and he did this. In reality, he didn't, but He created some of the largest social programs that still exist today. Like he was the one. He was the first president to kind of spit in the face of the Constitution to do whatever the fuck he wanted. He set the bar for that, to say like, hey, going forward, you just fucking make executive orders for what you want to do and just do it that way. Because as soon as it goes anywhere else, they're going to bring that Constitution into it, and that makes it really tricky. And he laid that out and just was like, oh, I get it. We don't have to debate about it if I just do an executive order. But yeah, I just think it's, I don't know, it's tough. But I think at the end of Trump's 4 years, you're going to see a larger budget than the U.S. has ever had. We're going to be at a larger deficit. There's the social programs that you don't like, he doesn't like, the Republicans don't like, are all still going to be there. And this is with Republican control of everything, and it's going to be exactly the same. And this is where, when I say like it's the same, like Hillary, Trump, it's all the Bernie, it would have all been the same. People are like, "Oh, you're crazy! Like Hillary's a whack job." Like, yeah, Hillary's fucking crazy. I completely agree. She's part of one of the corrupt families, like one of the big corrupt families. Like the Clintons and the Bushes are what you think of when you think of just like terrible fucking families in politics. But it's all the same.
Let's go back to war with Russia real quick, because while we were saying this, I was getting tweets. We're not going to war with Russia. Shut up. Get over it. Which I never said we were.
I think our relationship today with Russia, well, not today, but before the election cycle, when Clinton started to say that it was all Russia's fault, like all these, before people started pinning things on Russia, before the left hated Russia out of nowhere, I think we were at the best time we've had with Russia since World War II. Well,
but I mean, okay, we have this thing happens in Syria. We bomb Syria. Russia might not be happy with it, right? Within minutes or hours of us bombing Syria, we had a Russian destroyer rushing towards the ships that in the Mediterranean Sea that had fired the Tomahawk missiles, right? So there was like a good day where everybody was almost like, my father was like, oh my God, it's like the Cuban Missile Crisis. And, people were posting on Facebook the article of this happening with the picture of destroyer saying, back up, Putin. You don't know who you're fucking with. Like shit like that. Like this was a good day that this went on. You know what I'm saying? About like, fucking Russian fucks. Like, oh. So it's like
people so excited that our military is so fucking big.
Right. But the thing is that, let's say, no matter how unrealistic it is, okay, even though we're not going to go to war with Russia just because of this and that, still, it's like, why would we do anything that would make the other biggest superpower in the world mad at us for any reason? Like the one country that would be a huge threat to us, why would we rattle that cage? You know what I'm saying? Like, this dog's not going to bite you. He's a nice guy, but why am I going to stick his fucking head in my mouth? Or my head in his mouth? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the likelihood of it happening, okay, in my head is outweighed by the consequences of it happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can say, well, there's a low probability that this will happen. But the consequences of it happening and the effect it would have if it did happen kind of makes you fucking worried that, well, if it does happen, I better be fucking prepared. You know what I'm saying? Like, the weight of it happening outweighs the probability of it happening.
Yeah.
So it's like, why rattle that cage? Why stick your hand in that dog's mouth? Why even fucking, we have a nice peaceful kind of like, you look that way, I'll look this way kind of thing going on. Why fuck with it? Right? Why fuck with it at all?
Because it's in a part of the world where there's no Russians and there's no Americans.
Right. And
so let's fight our essentially Cold War again, but this time let's not put our own people at risk.
Right. And the thing is that you have people that are going, yeah, and if they do fuck with us, we'll fuck them right in the ass and we'll do this, we'll do that. And it's like, okay.
I don't want to kill Russian people, and Russian people don't want to kill me.
A lot of people who have seen posting this type of stuff, saying, oh, you're just going to go hang out. Okay, so for instance, Chris, who just called, now we're buddies, now we're friends, right? the first few exchanges on Twitter were not very friendly, okay?
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of, don't worry, you're not going to have to fight. Real men will go out and protect your ass for you, or something like that.
Said to the ex-Marine, ironically.
Right, which nobody knew this, and a few people tweeted at me and said, well, if I knew you were a veteran, I would have thought before I said that. I'm like, no, say it.
Yeah.
Say it. Me being a veteran has nothing to do with any of that shit.
That's your thought.
Right,
That's
like,
the
you
thing
have
that jumps into your head.
Right, you have no reason to censor yourself just because of whatever. I mean, anyway, doesn't matter. So you have all these people. A lot of them are women, people over 70, right?
Yeah.
That are saying, no, he has to do this. We have to do this. You have to do. Okay, well,
It's
I'm not
even-
saying I'm not the kind of guy that would say because you're in that certain group you can't have an opinion.
No. It's not over 70. It's like over 25. Like you're not gonna enlist if you're over. All right, let's say 30 or something.
Nope.
So
Army. No, you can be 40 and join the army right now.
But you're not
45 maybe
All right,
even.
So let's say 40, but we allow old men to make the decisions of what young men die.
Right.
And
That's
that's how the old saying goes. But
right.
it obviously involves women.
Right now you have women sitting at home on their computer going, yeah, fuck up these Russians, blah, 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 when you are never going to be expected to go get your legs blown off. But meanwhile, you're playing willy-nilly with fucking my life, or even worse, like my son's life, right? So I started a big argument on Facebook about this because I said something along the lines of on Facebook, when I tell my son war stories about the Middle East, it's with the hopes that that it'll just be a story to him and that he'll never have his own stories to tell of the Middle East, right? Well, thanks to President Trump, that might be a reality for him now, right? It's just like, we've already been here for so long.
I mean,
why keep?
It's not. President Trump is just continuing it. You can roll
Right.
it all the way back to. I mean, my father was in the Middle East under Reagan.
Right.
You can go before that. It just you have to watch. Have you seen Oliver Stone's Untold History of America?
No.
It's so it's like a 12-part
Really?
series. It's so fucking good. It breaks everything down and it shows you what lies got us into everything. Like what interventions we just never needed to fucking do but did anyway.
Mm-hmm.
How every president since like Teddy Roosevelt has just been a fucking dumpster fire. Like it was laid out very, very well. There's some you can tell he's libertarian leaning, but there's some like liberal agenda sprinkled here and there. But for the most part, he's just a free thinking guy who's just like, oh, this is fucking stupid. But yeah, when it comes to the entire war thing, I get accused a lot on Twitter of that I don't support the troops. Like that's the big thing is like I'm not patriotic because I don't support the troops. Like no. I genuinely support the troops because I don't want them to have to go
Right.
and kill.
They should be used only when needed. It's like you buy a gun with the hopes that you never have to use it.
Yeah.
You learn self-defense with the hopes that you never have to use
It's
it.
the first thing
only
they teach in martial arts. Is
right.
Like you learn the discipline of what you have. So
Right.
like, and a president doesn't have to learn the discipline of what he has when he's handed this immense army.
Right.
Like he doesn't need the discipline behind it.
We just got a message from Jen, who is one of our new listeners, new watchers. She said, in all seriousness, there's an assumption that men join the army to go kick some ass on behalf of the Americans who are too scared to. And that is absolutely correct. Right? The reason why we don't have a draft now is because we have enough people to volunteer. Right now, if people stopped volunteering and we had to get involved in a war, then that's when they would probably look at instituting the draft again, right? Because
we also incentivize the
right. We
shit
incentivize it.
out
A lot of people listen. Not everyone joins the military so they can be a hero or so they can get their real red-blooded American card. A lot of
it's-
people join so they could go to college.
free college
And
I got offered a $40,000
Right.
bonus to join,
And-
and I was able to walk away saying like, no.
right,
Like, no,
and
not
you know what
worth
else?
it.
A lot of guys, a lot of men also join for women. Like let's
Yeah.
not fucking lie there. Let's
Yeah.
not. There's no reason to sugarcoat that one. So thank you for your comment, Jen. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I would say that not everyone joins the military with the hopes of going and getting some. While let's say I can only talk about the Marine Corps specifically, but they do brainwash you to kind of want that. I went into I joined the Marine Corps maybe a month after 9/11, So I knew that there was a possibility that I was going to have to go do something, and I did. And it wasn't until I was already in for a year that I had that attitude of, yeah, let's fucking go. Like, I'm ready to go get something. I'm ready to go do this shit. Let's fucking go. At first, I remember it was March of 2003. I was in training in Pensacola, Florida, and we were at this taco place right off base. And I was in the Marines. I was just in training. So I was in A school, or in A school, sorry. And we were at this taco place off base listening on the radio to George W. Bush announcing that we're going into Iraq, right? And then at the time that I made it to the fleet, my unit that I ended up in was in that first wave, and they had just came back when I got there, right? So they had just came back from that first wave of people who went to go bomb the shit out of Baghdad and everything like that.
Yeah.
You have anything else to say? I want to keep talking, but we are kind of out of time.
No. I think this was a solid show. I'm glad that some newbies joined us, and for those of you that have listened to the ones in the past, we appreciate that as well. I had some fun. Nice way to unwind, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This was good.
Therapeutic.
This was really good. And why isn't this working? What did I do here? Oh, hold on. Let me run this up. I started playing the outro music, and it's not playing because I had this turned all the way down. There we go. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining us. And your camera went out, by the way. I don't know how long it's been out for.
The light was flashing
Yeah?
at me. All right. Thank you, guys.
See you guys later.